All right. Hi, everybody. Hello, hello.
Hello, everybody.
We're going to give a few minutes for people to just stream in, but thank you so much for joining us today. We are really happy to have you here, and we've really been looking forward to this, and we appreciate you spending the next hour with us. So let me give a quick intro as to who we are. I'm Nancy, and I'm here with Ty. I'm in marketing, and Ty is an AI engineer, and we both work at a company called Civic. So a few weeks ago, we got started on this idea of a webinar to educate people on how to use AI for work because um, it's basically such a big presence at our company these days, right? So I know a lot of us have this fear that everyone else is already an AI expert, or that the thought of getting started is just overwhelming, or you're afraid to ask questions. So our goal today is to give you the practical skills that you can use right away. Also, we want to hear from you. You can use the chat box here below your screen to ask questions, and I will queue up the questions for Ty as we go along. There's also a react button right next to it. If you particularly love something or hated something, we want to hear it. Feel free to use both liberally. Lastly, oh, perfect. I see a little clapping emoji. Yes, I appreciate that. Lastly, we're opening the floor for contributions right now. So as you go through the webinar, just think to yourself if there's a work task or a challenge that you're curious about how to use ChatGPT for or LLM tools in general for, just drop it in the chat, drop it in as a question. We're gonna try to pick one or two to explore at the end as time allows, and we'll try to even work through it in real time. So that's gonna be for Ty to figure out. I'm just telling you as a messenger. Maybe it's an annoying task at work that you want to make faster. Maybe you want to learn how to find information better. We want to hear it all, but just don't leave the chat empty. That would be really sad for us. We can't see your faces and it's not easy talking to the void. So definitely help us out here. So with that, I will turn it over to Ty. Over to you.
Thank you for that beautiful introduction, Nancy. I'd also like to take the opportunity to say thank you because might forget at the end, but put in a lot of effort to get this up and going. And we're really trying to build our community here, trying to get people involved. We're really excited about this technology. It's really changed the way I've worked and the way that I work going forward. And I'm really hoping you coming here, you can take some of the steps and ideas that we've done and we've gone through and use them in your own way. We're really skeptical of people that do call them experts in this domain because it is so new. So the idea is to take what you've learned here and apply it to your own workflow and use it in your own way. And yeah, without further ado, I would like to introduce you to the presentation and what we're going to cover today and how it might excite you going forward. So I am going to go to the next slide. So the basic idea here is that we're going to use AI as more of a mentor and collaborative, someone who you can lean on, ask questions. I know there's a lot of talk and fear mongering about AI in the workforce and taking people's jobs and stuff like that, but we've been using it long enough to know that it actually works more as a collaborator, someone you can lean on in advice, ideate with, really, really help to do the grunt work so you can focus on being a lot more creative. And that's personally, the more I've worked with it, it's really made my job a lot more pleasurable to work with because I feel like I have someone I can lean on, talk to, and really collaborate with going forward. So I want to introduce you to our little character. He's going to be basically called Thomas. He just graduated. He has a PhD level expertise across multiple different domains. He's available 24/7. His access is actually available for free. So you can talk to him and act him as your personal assistant, and he's just waiting for you to interact with him. And I really want to harbor on the fact of this PhD level expertise. There's a lot of studies that have been done that LLMs are and can be used with the level of a PhD level expertise in multiple different domains. So yes, we are all really quite focused and do well in our own domain, but there are other domains that we might not necessarily have that knowledge in. And that's what we want to focus on is someone who's a mentor collaborator that you can talk to and ask questions about and get real-time feedback using that level of expertise. And just to talk about the fact that we are all focused on our own level domain, and it's really important that these LLMs also tend to hallucinate. And it's important that you, if you're using it in your own domain, that you check that response that the LLM is generating So when you're moving forward, you know exactly how to correct and going forward. But we'll get into more of that in a little bit more detail. So I'd like to introduce you to Thomas here. He's going to be our little character going forward and make things a little bit fun. So today's agenda, we are just going to be focusing on prompt structure. There is this idea of prompt engineering. I don't believe in it. I believe that the goal is to collaborate with a LLM over time and really come to the conclusion together. But there is 4 simple steps you can follow in order to have the best outcome with your LLM. And we will define those in the first iteration. Then the second one is we're going to really get into practical. So I really do want this to be collaborative. Nancy's going to jump in here and there, but I really want you to understand that you're going to just follow me how I work, and I'm going to go through ChatGPT and show you all the different ways that you can use it. And the first one is going to be kind of basic. It's going to be about updating your LinkedIn. The second one is going to get a little bit more focused on something that you can start doing at work, and that's running meetings more efficiently. And the one that I'm really, really excited about is that if you use LLMs over time, you can collect lots and lots of data and start analyzing those patterns over time. So something that you might miss, something that you might not find, it's very good at being able to pick out those things. And hopefully in the practical that we do, you'll be able to figure out exactly how to collect that data and work with LLM to find out things that you might miss. And then obviously there's going to be a little bit of homework, but not too much. I promise you that. You're just going to encourage you to go through things, but we'll cover that more towards the end.
Hi, I've noticed that you've said LLM several times. What is an LLM and what are some common LLMs that you know of?
An LLM, thank you, Nancy. That's a good question. An LLM is basically AI. It's a large language model. ChatGPT can be considered an LLM. Claude, if you guys have used Claude, is also can be considered an LLM. It's just a large language model that allows text-based input and output. And we will explore them all going forward, and all the different versions that you can use. But basically, people refer to it as the AI, but it's generally a large language model that you can work and speak to in natural language. Yeah, so if there are any other questions, please ask and butt in. So when you're trying to structure your prompt, there's 4 things that I find are really crucial. It's like, what is your goal? Like, what are you trying to accomplish? You're speaking to someone with PhD level expertise in multiple different domains. So really structure your goal properly. And the thing is, you might have a hazy goal up front. So the idea is to really work with the AI LLM in order to achieve what your goal is. And it will ask you questions. Ask it like, okay, I've got this kind of goal that I'm trying to achieve. How can I define it properly? And then it will iterate over time and will show you how to do that. And then the most important part here is the context. So once you've defined your goal, you can ask the LLM, what context or what information do you need from me in order to accomplish that goal? And this requires effort on your side. There's usually this phrase that we talk about, garbage in, garbage out. So if you give it garbage information, you're going to kind of get garbage information out. If you give it no information, you're going to get a generic response, and it's going to look the same. I'm sure you're all used to those posts that you see on Slack and LinkedIn that looked exactly like an LLM wrote them. It was just pasted in. And I fell into this trap as well. Like you've got half an idea. You say, I really want to write this post. Do you want to write it for me? And then it comes out, it's kind of good. It's not excellent. You copy and you paste it and it sounds like everyone else. So the idea is here to provide the context, work with the LLM on how you want that content to really sound. And an example like that might be like a word that you never use in the way that you write, or that it introduces a sentence structure that the grammar is incorrect, or it's not according to your liking. Really provide that context and tell it how you want it to behave. And then the role. The role is interesting because if you're working in product, a good example is like, for example, if you're trying to develop a product and sell a product and you don't have users that you can go and ask and speak to, you can ask the LLM to take on the role of one of those users. And that's great because you can then iterate with it and say, okay, what am I missing? How is this working? How can I improve? And it's taking on the role as a user would with your product. It's obviously not perfect, but it's a good starting point. The other way is, let's say, for example, you want it to be a coach or a mentor or someone to be an expert in a domain. You want to learn something that you don't understand. Ask it to be on the role of a teacher and then set the tone. How do you want it to sound? Do you want it to be empathetic? Do you want it to be critical? Do you want it to be a little bit more or less shallow? You want to go a little bit more in depth. And ChatGPT has in the past been part of it being very sycophantic. So it like thinks all your ideas are brilliant, and you really want it to be a little bit more critical with you and a little bit more objective in its answers, because it's really going to try and please you, and you don't always want that. So it is time for our first practical here, and this is going to get really, really exciting. We're going to take just a really simple example of just updating your LinkedIn profile. So what context are we going to give it? What role? What's the goal, the tone, the professional, and the warmth? I'm going to give you a really good example of a prompt that we just constructed before this, and how you might be able to use it. We are also going to, this Zoom thing is blocking my screen. Sorry about that. Let me just make us down here. And I'm going to go to prompts. And we've constructed a prompt here from updating your LinkedIn. You can see we've got 3 practicals. This is the first one. And the first one is called just updating your LinkedIn. So we've clearly defined what the goal is here. The goal is help me rewrite my LinkedIn headline, short, interesting, and specific. What my about section be, controversial, confident, authentic, and what were rules to apply. Then what context it needs from us in order to achieve that goal. It's going to tell us exactly how to provide that context and then ask us a series of questions. What role it's going to behave. You're a brutally honest but caring career coach. You give sharp feedback, keep things funny. So we're just asking you to act in a specific way, and then friendly, funny, and self-aware. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this whole prompt here. And I'm going to go in ChatGPT and I'm just going to paste it. So this is your interface to ChatGPT. If you've never used it before, it's really intuitive. It's basically just like talking in Messenger. On the left-hand side of my chats, on the up above them is my projects, which we'll get into a little bit. But don't worry about that all right now. I am going to pick the model here. And as Nancy mentioned earlier, we've got different ones that we can use, different large language models. We can go to the legacy, which is GPT-4. They've been notoriously bad at naming these things, but GPT-5 here, auto, what that means is it's going to route the model to the appropriate large language model. One that's going to be instant, that's going to give you an answer straight away. One that's going to take a little bit of time, look it over, iterate over its response, and then give it to you. And then there's Pro, which I believe is only available to paying subscribers. And that's going to be, it's basically research grade intelligence. If you're really looking for something that's solid, you don't need the response straight away. You can focus on Pro there as well. And we're going to focus on all of those, right? And while we work through this prompt. But without further ado, I'm just going to hit enter. And now it's going to read that prompt. And it's going to say, okay, all right, Ty, time to do some professional spring cleaning. Step 1, go to your LinkedIn profile, grab a screenshot. If you noticed here, it tells me exactly how to do that. And what's great about this, and I really want people to get in this mindset, is if you don't understand something and you don't know where to look, just go into large language model like ChatGPT or Claude and ask it how you can do that. I've really seen the way that it's empowered people, especially the people like my mom who tend to come to me and ask me things. She can just answer a question straight in here. Even with my kids, straight away they can ask questions and then find out answers straight away. And it's really, really great way because you don't have to go do all that research on your behalf. So while we've done that, let's go in. I'm not going to go to my LinkedIn because I've already taken the photos. And I'm just going to copy these 2 screenshots. So you can see here, I've got this screenshot here, and I've got this screenshot here. And that's just a picture of my LinkedIn that I can then give to the large language model to say, listen, analyze this and tell me what you see. So let's hit send, see what happens. And it's really great. Like if you've got text, PDFs, like there's data in those images, dates that you really want to extract out of. You can upload an image, you can upload a PDF, and it can really extract all that possible information. So it says, all right, I've seen the goods and Ty, your LinkedIn currently reads like a polite robot in a suit who's trying to sound impressive at a tech meetup. It's not bad, it's just neutralized. Your headline, blah, 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 blah. Your about section starts with a seasoned software engineer, which is a recruiter catnip from 2015. It's a competent but missing your real spark. You mentioned compositional systems, blah, 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 blah. So you can see there's definitely room for improvement here. But it's going to ask me a series of questions here, you'll notice. I'm not going to go answer those right now because I want to show you something. It's a really cool feature, and it's in personalization here. And what's interesting about using ChatGPT, and if you allow it, it will start remembering your conversations and remembering important information about you over time. And they name that memories. And you don't have to worry about anything. You turn it on and it automatically happens on your behalf. So if it deems something that's really important about yourself, so you mentioned something about your job or your goals or your vision, it will store those as memories that you can then use on chats going forward. And it's really, I really think this is going to be the determining factor of which large language models people use, is how personalized they become to them. Because it's really interesting for me to not go tell it my name or it reveal information that I might have forgotten. And it pulls that information and get for a coherent response. So in showing you that, I just want to show you the feature. So I'm going to say to LLM, I'm going to say, I am in a demo right now, but you know a lot about me. Please, can you reveal some information about me to answer those questions, but don't reveal anything too telling because I'm in a meeting with quite a lot of people. And introduce yourself. So I'm going to hit that.
Kai, while we wait for this, we do have some questions from the audience.
Sure.
Why did you use an image rather than just give ChatGPT a link to your LinkedIn profile?
I could have done that as well, but I don't think it has. Some of my privacy on my LinkedIn profile, if I'm logged in, doesn't reveal all my information. But we can try that as well. Let me see. Can you retrieve all the information from my LinkedIn profile here? And you sure you can't do that, but obviously, if your profile is locked down and it doesn't reveal too much information, you want it to go in.
Gotcha. So this is one example where your privacy settings prevented ChatGPT from doing its work, basically, which is why you sent
Exactly.
the screenshots.
Yeah.
The other question we had here is you just specify where you declare rules for ChatGPT about what type of tone you like. Where was this section on personalizations at? Where did you do that?
In personalizations. Oh, here. Are you talking about in here?
Mm-hmm. Okay, there we go. So it's
Yeah,
in your profile within the personalization section. Thanks,
exactly.
Lynn, for that question.
Yeah, so I go into so in the prompt that I originally shown, I structured it into the four different sections: tone, goal, context, and what was the last one? Was there goal, tone, and role? So you don't have to do that every time. You can just come into your personalization and configure it how you want it to act all the time, or you can just override it with a prompt that says, "Listen, don't listen to this, but go do it." So you can get your LLM to act in this specific way all the time, or you can just provide it with a prompt where you want it to act in a different way or take on a different role. But yeah, the more context you give it about yourself, the more personal it's going to be and answer questions in that domain about you. Okay, so yeah, it wasn't able to fetch it. My profile is, some of the information is public, so I don't know why it didn't. Um, but yeah, we can check that. But that's a good question. You can generally give it a link, but there are also a lot of websites that block LLM access because they want to own the data and they don't want the LLMs to be trained on that data. So if it isn't able to find that information, you can just copy and paste an image, or you can copy the text and paste it in. But yeah, so we were there and updating the information. And let's just read through this. So it says, "Hi, everyone. I'm ChatGPT's partner in crime. We've been working together on everything from AI-powered developer tools to experiments in how humans against collaborate. Da 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 da." Okay, so I say, okay, so now please provide me with my about section and my title section. And what I want to take note here is it's going to give you an answer, but don't accept the first answer. Literally ask it to iterate again and again, because the more you ask it, the more it's going to iterate and the more it's going to give you a better answer. And there might be a few things that you like, you don't like. So I really encourage you to iterate over time and don't just take the first response it gets to it. And I'm going to show you what to do there. I'm going to say, okay, that sounds kind of good, not great. Can you do another iteration? And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn on thinking. You can say think longer and then it'll automatically route to that model. but it's not always guaranteed. So I'm just going to turn on thinking because I wanted to spend time just thinking about the data a little bit more before it answers it. So if you're not pressed on time, turn on this, and you're more than likely going to get a much better response from the LLM. Usually you can see how it's actually thinking. Now you can see here, so I'm not sure, creating headlines, writing playfully honest about section. And so it's writing instructions for itself on how it should accomplish that task. Okay, so professional, and then it gives me a playfully honest. And if you notice in our prompts, I asked it for 2 examples. So that's why it's giving me 2 examples there. Now, the feature that I love and I'm most excited about in ChatGPT is deep research. And what I'm going to say here is, this is good, this is better, but can you do some deep research on how OpenAI engineers display themselves or present themselves on LinkedIn, and then provide that information in a report that I can then use in order to better my LinkedIn profile? And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go from auto, I'm going to go into pro mode, and I'm going to turn on deep research. And this can take for anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes to complete. It's a really nice feature because like the other day I was in a car and we're developing a product at Civic, and I really wanted to do a competitor analysis about different people that are building in that space. So while I was in the car, I just brought up ChatGPT and I said, listen, can you do this competitor analysis? I turned on deep research, it did its work, got home, made breakfast, had some coffee, and then 15, 20 minutes later, I had a report that I could read while I was having breakfast. And this would usually take you like, I don't know, at least a couple of days to pull this information. It's pulling it from multiple different sources. It's trying to collect that information. It's analyzing it. You can see here that it's asking me questions before it goes and does its work. So it can be really clear on what it's trying to do. I'm just going to answer them quickly. Can we do agent tooling? We can put in public bios from GitHub and speaker bios as well. Headline wording, about section, all of that. Use anything at your discretion. What's really cool, this hasn't asked me that before, but it asked me about GitHub here. And it's a coding repository where you store all your code, and people tend to have their profiles up there as well. So it's not just looking at LinkedIn, it's looking at other sources about these people as well. And it's going to go do research. And like I said, hopefully it'll be done when we finished here. But I do have a saved one that I can show you and go through the report. But let's leave it to run. Okay, so that's the first one of just updating your LinkedIn profile. I took an image. Yep.
Ty, before you move on to your next one, let's just answer a few questions from the audience here.
Sure.
We have a question from Lika. So her question is, from your experience, is there an upper limit for iterations before you start seeing ChatGPT hallucinating? Because we noticed that you asked for several iterations when you asked for your LinkedIn profile modifications.
Yeah, definitely. So there's something that's called context rot. So the larger your chat gets to happen, it's going to lose a lot of information in between. It won't tell you that, and they're getting smarter over time. So it's something you just have to kind of keep a lookout for. But that also goes down to the fact of like context, why context is so important. You don't want to take a bunch of context and fill it up with a context window. You want to really pick the content that you want to go into the context window instead of just taking a bunch of information and just throwing it in there. But to answer the question, yes, like the more information, the more iterations, you're going to notice that the LLM might forget something that it mentioned right in the beginning that it might not remember over time. So I think what is happening behind the scenes, it's when it gets too large, it's summarizing that information. And when it's compressing that information, there's going to be data loss. So yes, you're 100% correct that iterate. But I mean, it really takes a long time before it gets to that point.
Gotcha. All right, thanks, Lika, for that. And then one more for Lynn. This is a security question, which we may or may not be prepped to answer because we are not OpenAI. But Lynn's question is, how can you lock ChatGPT down so that it doesn't store your info for public use?
Yeah, so there is a setting here that you can go into ChatGPT, and there is something, they hide it because they want to use, they're basically using the information to train their model. It's not necessary that information is going to be revealed if you ask it a question about yourself. It's just trying to improve the model over patterns over time. But if you really don't want to train the model on your data, there is a thing here where you can turn off data controls. You know what? Let's just ask ChatGPT.
I
How do I
wonder what
make
it's going to tell us.
ChatGPT not train on my data? Ah, gosh, she said it. Okay, it's using that. Sorry about that. Let's go back to the normal model. How do I make ChatGPT not train on my model? Train on. Okay. Okay, so we're on the business plan, so maybe that's why it's not showing the settings. And we specifically tell ChatGPT on enterprise that we don't want it to train on our data, but you should have a setting if you're a paying subscriber where you can use ChatGPT to not train on your specific data. So there is definitely a setting there, but of course you have to pay for it, which is a little bit dodgy in my opinion. But yeah, all those questions.
Yes, those are all the questions. I think the TLDR here is there is no free lunch. If you're using ChatGPT for free, you're probably the product.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people, I know OpenAI has just released the browser now as well. And it's probably training the model on how to use the browser more efficiently. So you're also not just getting it for free, like Nancy mentioned, it's using the data to train it. Because there is an option here, we won't get into it, it's called agent mode, where the model can actually use the browser to like log into your LinkedIn. So that would have been a good example, is I can use the browser to log into my LinkedIn. It gives me control when it needs to enter my credentials, I enter my credentials, and then it can go browse on my behalf. It's just super long. It's super, like, I find it buggy. I haven't used it a lot. I don't know many people that use it a lot. But what we suspect is that now OpenAI has released their own browser. They're trying to use the data of how people browse and search in order to train their model to become better at that. So yeah, there is no free lunch. Exactly.
Yeah. And we have more questions in here, but I know if we keep answering questions, we're not going to allow Ty to get through his presentation. But know that we have it and we will be answering it probably over email afterwards.
Yeah, even
Ty,
in
you
Slack.
can, yeah,
Yeah.
feel free to go on.
Okay, cool. So what we learned is just what the goal, how to structure a prompt, context, role, tone, and yeah, just this is not set in stone. Just the two most important thing is like, what are you trying to achieve? You can use the LLM to figure out what you're trying to achieve, and then the context is the information you want to insert, and that requires effort. Like it really requires a lot of effort and research on your behalf. How you're going to get the most prominent data to pass into the LinkedIn. One thing I just want to harbor on the fact here is I really watched a good YouTube video where someone was trying to figure out how to get the most out of their team. And what they did is they went to and found a bunch of research papers, kind of read them, asked an LLM to summarize them, brought all that information to a single text file, and then just threw that into the context window. Now the LLM could leverage some of that information from the research that it had done instead of going and doing it by itself in order to come up with a better response. So if you're really trying to do something and not try to sound like everyone else, spend time just getting and collecting the right context. Okay, so this is one I'm really, really excited about. Here well, I don't know many people that like meetings, but they tend to not always run smoothly. They tend to kind of go off the agenda. There tends to be people that speak, there are people that don't speak. And we want to use something as a starting point in order to help you run your meetings more efficiently. And this starting point is going to be used to collect data that we can then iterate and create a really awesome feedback loop. And we're going to just start here. And I'm going to go back into Notion and we're going to give you these prompts that you can kind of write and go through yourself to see how we structure them. But I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to take the exact same thing. The goal is design a clear time-bounded meeting plan that starts with purpose, ends with decisions, the context, what it needs from us in order to accomplish that, and then what we're hoping to get out of this. And basically, we're just looking for agenda and a way to structure the meeting, and then the tone and role. We don't really need the role and role, but I just thought it'd be great to put it in as well. So let's go into a new chat here and just paste that in. So if you're running meetings, this is a really awesome way to get more efficient and see who's speaking, who's not. Get reports basically on your team that you can use and share around as well. So it says, what's the purpose of this meeting? Be ruthless, who needs to be there? I'm not going to write all of that. I've actually got that information already. So what is the main purpose? To prioritize bugs from the last sprint and align on ownership. So we're building software. We're just trying to figure out where the software is happening and where we should prioritize, who's in the meeting, what are our top 3 outcomes from this meeting, and then a duration breakdown. So I'm just going to copy this information in here. I'm going to paste it. Okay. And now it's going to give us an agenda in our meeting. And like I mentioned, like there's going to be stuff in here that you don't necessarily like. So tweak it, work with it, figure out where it goes. But this is a good starting point, right? The idea here is for, hey, look, it use that emoji as a G. That's interesting. I've never seen that before. I've never seen it misspelled, so I assume it was trying to be clever there. Anyway, so it's given us an agenda here that we can then use to go forward. And the idea is not to just have an agenda and that's it, and you just, you're getting an LLM to do one thing. The idea is for us to start building data that we can collect and improve this over time. So most meetings now allow you to get the transcript of the meeting. So once you've got the transcript, I'm going to say to the LLM, here is a meeting result that we just had. So this is just an example of a meeting that we had after we had this agenda plan. And I'm going to say, okay, thank you for that. That's great. Here is our first meeting. What can you extract from it? I've never seen it be horrible to me, so that's interesting there. But so now it's giving us a purpose that's a key takeaways. I didn't really specify what I wanted it to extract from here, but this is a good starting point. You can see like, okay, purpose, the meeting hit every stated goal, prioritized top 3 bugs, assigned owners, and made a decision on the boarding flow. Wow, okay, so it really went well. The purpose in, decisions out, loop work well, exactly as intended. All key decisions and our biggest role. So I don't want to go through all of this. I'm going to just say that's great. And then I'm going to say, is there anything that you can use from this transcript in order to improve the next agenda meeting? You nailed the purpose and execution, but ended cleanly without a. So I'm going to let this go. And I want to show you something that's also really interesting that I really love. And the one thing that I tend to use ChatGPT a lot for is the advanced voice mode. And I'm just going to show you quickly how it works. Nancy, wave your hand if you can't hear the response from it, but I'm going to talk to it like a real person. So I just launched that. I'm going to say, hey, how are you? I'm in a meeting right now. You can introduce yourself, but I don't have time to read through that detailed report that you gave me. Do you mind listing the top 3 important points that went well and the ones that went badly?
Absolutely. Let's do a quick highlight reel. I'll be your meeting wingman and give you just the essentials so you can drop them into the room. Top 3 things that went well. Decisions were crystal clear. We nailed the exact outcomes we wanted. Everyone knew which bugs to prioritize and who owned them, and we made a firm decision on the onboarding flow timing. Participation was balanced. Everyone contributed equally, nobody dominated, and you kept the energy flowing without any awkward silences. Meeting stayed on time. You wrapped everything in the planned 25 minutes, so no one felt dragged into overtime. Top 3 challenges to improve next time? Reflection got skipped. We missed the final minute or 2 to ask what we could do even better. Adding that will help us keep refining. Temptation? We almost got sidetracked by screen share at the start. Keeping quick wins truly quick ensures we don't lose focus. Preemptive user signals. We only discovered a lingering mobile error from Alicia casually. Next time, let's add a quick support signal section so those insights come up proactively. That's your quick brief. Feel free to drop those top 3 what went well and what to improve points right into the room.
Yeah. So this, yeah, I tend to use it quite a lot. My wife and I have a running joke where she says that's my new girlfriend because I tend to speak to it more than I kind of speak to her. But it's really interesting. Like if you, like I live 40 minutes away from downtown, so I will generally just put on advanced voice mode and just iterate and ideate. And it really is like speaking to a person. And you'll notice if you do it over time, how much smarter it's getting. The other day that I asked the LLM, please, do you mind doing some research on something for me? And it stopped and it said, yeah, sure, I'll be back in a second and I'll come back. And I was like, whoa, okay, that's crazy. Like that really feels like I'm speaking to someone. So it's really interesting. It's a really nice way to just kind of speak to and then like ideate and get information from. But that's fine. So now we've got our first set of results. So what we did is we created an agenda and we iterated on that agenda, and then we pasted our first transcript and we got some information back from it. And that's great. Like that's at least getting better. And then we improved the plan based on the data. So what I want to do now is I'm going to go in and I'm going to create a new project. And I'm going to call this Meeting Assistant. So you can almost think this of a way to collect the information and group it in a specific way so you can improve over time and have that same context over time. So I'm going to drop that in there, and you can see it's in there now. And you can see if I go into Meeting Assistant, that chat is in there. And I'm not going to talk about that just yet. We're going to just kind of move on, and then I'll come back to it. So what you learned, I kind of went through that already. I'm not going to harbor on this fact. But what I want to do now is I've gone and collected a bunch of meeting transcripts that we can then use to analyze patterns over time. So if you go back into the Notion workspace, you'll see that there's a prompt here called looking for patterns. It's another prompt with the same context. You're an AI analyst reviewing recurring team meetings and transcripts. Each transcript includes notes on attendees, discussion topics, decisions, and follow-ups. We want to uncover patterns that reveal how team communicates and executes over time. Then we give it a role, and what the goal is: extract and summarize recurring themes across meetings. We want to do sentiment analysis. We want to flag structural issues, conclude with three. So I'm not going to go through all of that. Yep.
Ty, if I understand, what you're doing here is you are taking a look at a series of the same meeting that has occurred in the past, and you're looking for patterns that can help inform how you can make it better. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah. So the idea is that you want to collect as much data over time, because the LLM is very good at being able to find patterns in your data that you might have missed. And it's going to only get better with the more data that it has. So collect information over time and then start finding those patterns that it can then use. So there might be people that have journaled, but they not necessarily want to give the data to OpenAI. So I wouldn't suggest doing that, but that would be a good example of taking a bunch of information and trying to find patterns in there. It works really well.
And Ty, in this context, what you're doing is you're taking all the transcripts from, let's say, the past 4 meetings that you had, and you're having ChatGPT look for patterns for you. Is that right?
Exactly. So I've given the prompt, and I'm giving it the goal of what it's trying to do. I haven't given the transcripts yet. I'm just trying to tell it, okay, I'm going to give you the contracts, but this is how I want you to behave and what to look out for. And then it's going to ask me now for the transcripts. Well, it should have. Okay, there we go. You see I'd route it to the thinking mode now. It's not really clear on when it does it and when it should. But yeah, you just have to experiment and when it's going to do it. It should be clever enough to know when it should give you a quick, straight response or spend time on the session. So you see it's asking me for this information. Awesome, let's get rolling. Or startup, drop in right here. Any format is fine, but this lightweight template helps. Perfect. I'm going to go in, and you can see here, like Nancy asked, I've got a bunch of meetings and their summaries, and I'm going to paste these in. And now it's going to really, I think it's worth reading these out. So meeting 1, the ambitious start bursts with enthusiasm but collapses under its own energy. The overreaction tries to fix chaos with control. The dip shows burnout, too much rigidity, not enough. And this might be a little bit more verbose for you. So you can actually ask it to be like, pick three key points that went well, 3 key points that went well, and how can we improve it? The team's emotional temperature cooled rapidly after the first meeting, but rebounded when structure met empathy. Ty's tone shifted from enthusiastic. Interesting. And then it kind of shows you like a breakdown of how people participated in the different meetings and how you can improve them going forward. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to take this and I'm going to paste it in here. And if I go to this chat here, it's referencing both those messages and it's constraining them to so those are going to be like the previous question was like the context window is we're going to take these and the LLM is going to use this in the context window in order to ask and answer any questions that I might have. So I'm going to say based on the meetings, the weekly review, actually, sorry, I just want to rename this quickly. I'm going to call this weekly review. I'm going to say based on the meetings and based on the weekly meetings review, can you develop an updated agenda that we can then use going forward for future meetings? And tell me anything I should look out for, and anything, and continue the stuff that went well. And what I want to show you here is like if you're trying to accomplish a specific goal and it's spread out across various chats, do a bit of triage, create a project folder, and then keep things structured in there. And then you can reference different things through there. I mentioned that it does look at past chats, but it's not always as accurate as having it grouped in a specific folder under context that you may need. So yes, this is great momentum to codify what's working into living rhythm from the weekly review. Meeting 1 was high energy but unstructured, lots of enthusiasm. Meeting 2, and then it's giving us an updated meeting agenda template. And then the whole idea is that it's creating this awesome feedback loop. So you started out with a template, you refined that template, you had your first meeting, you refined it after that first template, and then you had a weekly review with all the transcripts together, and then you use that again to refine the template. And then it's slowly over time going to find patterns and improve. And this just doesn't have to just be applied to like optimizing meetings. They're going to be applied to, I don't know, anything personal or anything that you're trying to do at work, like getting it, if you're a graphic designer, you're trying to optimize your workflow. Ask it like questions and then get it to follow and log those responses and then collect that data and then ask the LLM like what drains your energy, what brings you energy, where can I spend more time, how much am I spending my time here, and it'll slowly start finding those patterns for you. Yeah, so those were the 3 practicals, and I just kind of want to go through what we learned. We reveal hidden patterns, data surfaces, root causes versus symptoms. Thomas finds what you've been missing, patterns, insights, actions, so that you want to create that really strong feedback loop of getting that context, improving and improving and improving. And that's exactly how LLMs actually learn, right? They learn by being trained with a bunch of data. Then they go through an iteration loop, and then they use those insights in order to train again and train again and train again and get better and better and better. So there's a lot we can learn from them as well. So just to cover quickly, we did a LinkedIn, which was just a very high level of how to update your LinkedIn. And then we went into how you could use it to really start iterating and improving over your meetings, and then how to find specific patterns in your data. And I really encourage you to use these LLMs to find these patterns, like really what are you trying to look for? I'm not a data scientist, but I can lean on the LLM to say, listen, I have this thing that I'm trying to do. What data do I need to capture? How should I capture it? And where should and how can you identify things that should be revealed? So it will act as the data scientist on my behalf and just tell me how I should be capturing that data so it can analyze it. So congratulations, but not so fast. I want you to, if this is your first time really starting to use LLMs for the first time, we want you to pick one thing that you want to improve on. It could be work, it could be personable. And then plan in the morning, like just log 3 things, like of that task that you did, you didn't do, how you felt. Any sort of data, the more data you give, the more insights it's going to give you. And then just do that over 5 days. And then after the 5th day, ask it for a summary. And we're going to have all of these prompts in there. It's actually under, gosh, this thing keeps blocking my tabs. We are going to have that all under here, homework, and it's going to tell you exactly how to go about and do that. So the big part is a reflection at the end of the week, like what were you able to take from the logs that I captured throughout the day, and how can I improve for the next week? And you slowly get better, and you slowly iterate with LLM, find different patterns, put on advanced voice mode, documents, and really get to use them. The idea here is, and I just kind of want to finish off here, is the thing is like, it's still very, very early. And the fact that you showed up here and you're trying to iterate and trying to learn and how to use them better, It's no one's like no one's an expert. Everyone uses it in their own way. Everyone has their own workflow. I'm specifically as a software engineer, I went from LLMs that couldn't code where I'm just reviewing code all the time right now. I'm not writing actual any code. I'm just having it review it. And it's honestly like I can spend more time ideating and thinking about how I want to build something versus than actually just manually writing the code. And it makes my job a lot better. But I still need to handhold it. Like I need to understand where is it going wrong? What did it do here? How did it do this? And it tends to drift. It does. You have to really keep an eye on it. So the people that say, oh, an agent's going to be able to go and do this and that, maybe in the future, I don't see it anytime soon in the future, especially if you really care about your product and your domain and you're trying to get better at a specific something. It can increase it by like up to 80%, but you still have to be there and reviewing and seeing exactly what it's doing and asking questions. And it's really awesome for learning as well. You can really deep dive shallow or stay very high level. But I just wanted to say thank you for coming here. You're curious, you're still very early. Use these tools, develop an intuition, figure out how to use them in your workflow, document, collect the data, and then see how you can get better over time.
All right, Ty, we're not over. We're not done,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
Our audience has been keeping us very busy with questions in the Q&A and in the chat. So maybe now's a good time to just go through some of these. Again, we may not be able to go through everything, but we'll try to answer what we can. So let me just take a look at what we have here. I'll skip around. Anita had a question. Can a tool like ChatGPT become like a virtual social media manager, maybe help look for patterns as to who is liking our posts on our X account, for example, or our Facebook account, for example?
Yeah, definitely can. So social media, you have to, and I mentioned that agent mode that it can log into. I wanted to show you actually that I use that information to update my profile. So I didn't just show you an example. I actually used that prompt that we use. But my example here is you are able to, and I don't know if it has access specifically to, let me just start a new chat here. Company knowledge. You can connect different data sources here. And we at specifically at Civic do this. We don't focus on social media. We focus mainly on like GitHub and more development tools right now and like HubSpot and that. But the idea is yes, if it has access to that data and it can connect to that data, you can do all sorts of analysis. So one of the things we do offer that's not offered here at Civic is the ability to connect to Google Analytics. And I'll just go here quickly. But well, that's a really good question because that's the idea. You want to kind of stay in the interface of the LLM. You don't want to go and copy and paste data between different points. The idea is that you want to be able to connect it to these things so it can do these things on your behalf. So for example, here I can go in and I can say like, what are open pull requests and that we have at Civic and how are the developers like performing over time? We can start doing analysis like that as well and collecting that data without having to go and manually get it. But the trick is, social media specifically, I think Twitter has an example of that. And I don't want to get too technical, but it is, I think it's something worth mentioning. There's this concept that's called MCP, and it's just a way for the LLM to connect to external sources. So it can connect to your Twitter account, it can connect to your Facebook account, or if all your data is feeding into another system, it can connect to that system to pull that data and find insights in that. And that's honestly, that's the biggest power in it. Like that's where like if you can connect a bunch of different data sources to your LLM and ask it to find patterns in that, or ask it in things that you're missing and you might not find, then it can become really powerful. I don't know of an MCP server that has Twitter enabled or Facebook enabled, but if it's connecting to another system that connects that data, yes, you can connect it to do that.
That's awesome,
I
Ty.
hope I didn't go too technical there, but
No, not at all. I think
okay.
we have people even asking about building an agent in this chat. So clearly there is demand from our audience here. And this is giving us great fodder for just future topics that we tailor for a different type of audience. But let me go through some more questions here. And again, I'm jumping all over the place. In experimenting across ChatGPT versus Gemini versus Perplexity, are you finding that there are any like key differences on what's better for what use case?
Yeah, so I'm lucky enough at Civic, they provide access to Claude and ChatGPT and, well, not Perplexity. I use Perplexity, just free version. I don't use Perplexity as much. I do like it to find information over just Googling it. I find Claude is phenomenal. You should really go look out. And if you, as an alternative to ChatGPT's Claude, they're really doing some crazy stuff with the desktop app. If you download it, you can like literally copy, it basically give you your screen and you can bring it up at any time. I don't want to get too much detail there, but I do really like Claude, and I've got it here. Claude for writing. Claude is really good for writing. So this, it looks exactly like ChatGPT. It also, you're allowed to connect to your different external sources for that previous thing, and it also allows us to connect to Civic as well. But this is like what I will do sometimes is I'll put like a question into Claude, have it come back with a response, copy that response, take it to ChatGPT, and ask it the same question, and then have them compare and kind of talk to each other. And see which one appear over time. But I really do like Claude for writing. So if you're doing a lot of writing, I find that it's a really good model to do that. And it's got Opus, which is really good. Just you don't get a lot of credits for it. This is the quickest model, and then Sonnet is the one that's. I know Claude has been specifically for coding, but it's also very good at writing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, it's really more about experimenting and finding the tool that works for you, right? So for example, I'm probably the opposite of Ty. I prefer ChatGPT because I'm on marketing and I do a lot of creative short form writing, which I really love bouncing ideas with ChatGPT versus with Claude. It's just personal preference at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, I'm going to continue moving through our Q&As, as many as we can. What's the difference between an LLM and an AI agent? Are they the same thing?
No. So an LLM is just usually a request and a response. An agent is basically has access, there was a previous question, to what is called tools. And I'll actually show you an example of an agent. Please don't do that. And I'll demo this in Nexus as well. So basically, these LLMs have access to what we call tools. And these tools could be like on your file, it basically could be access to your file system. It could be access to different data sources. And if you ask it a question and it doesn't know the answer, but it has access to these tools, it will call these different tools to collect all the information it needs to do and then present you with the answer. So it's basically a large language model that's running on a loop that has access to these different tools until it's confident enough to provide you with an answer. So, for example, there's something that's called Claude Code, and it's something that you install locally on your system, and you can go tell it to build a massive feature and step away for 7 hours, and it's going and using all its different tools and calling those different tools, even debugging what's going wrong, what's going right, until it comes up with that answer. So it's basically an LLM that's not just giving you the response straight back away. Actually, the best example is the LinkedIn one that we just kind of did, the deep research. So it went and it was going and fetching different resources from multiple different things, looking at the answers, coming up with whether or not it's come up with a plan that it's followed, and providing you with the answer. So it's doing a bunch of work in the background, like fetching information, summarizing the information, bringing that information together, and then collecting it and presenting to you. And that's an agent. All it is an LLM that has access to tools, that is running on a loop until it's confident enough to give you an answer. I hope that
Awesome.
makes sense. Yeah.
Thanks, Ty. Let's go for a lighter weight question this time around. What tool did you use to generate the videos or the cartoon that you have in your slides? How did you build that deck?
I've heard the phrase vibe coding. I basically just vibe coded this app. It is running locally on my machine, so you can see here it is writing here. I basically was just asked it to build a website for me that follows a specific structure. And I just basically I didn't write any of this code. I was just telling it to talk and update slides and move slides around. So I was just basically what we call vibe coding. You can do that in like Lovable when you build your different websites or applications that you want. We'll link to those. And then for the images themselves, I used Midjourney. Midjourney is really, really powerful. Like, it's probably one of the things I enjoy using the most. You just enter a prompt, it figures out your style over time, And then it just starts generating these images. And then you just, if it generates a cool image, you can just say, okay, run this as a video, and then it will generate in an animation style video. So if you're working with graphics or design or anything that's really use Midjourney, and then you can even use your character throughout different animations, which is really cool. I find it probably one of the best AI products that I've used in a long time.
Amazing. Thanks, Ty. Let's go for another question here. When you are stuck on something, are you able to just share screen with ChatGPT? For example, if I'm on my Google Sheets and I'm trying to do some analysis, could I just share my screen with ChatGPT, or do I need to do something else in order for it to analyze what I'm struggling with?
Yeah, you can share your screen, and that's actually a really good point here. I don't know exactly how to, let's just actually ask ChatGPT that. There is a button inside. You have to download the desktop app, and then
Gotcha.
there is a button in the thing that lets you do that. Sorry, let me just go here.
This is a new learning for me too. I had no idea.
Yeah,
Thanks,
you can
Anita, for the question.
you can do it. This is recording a screen. This is actually just basically being a transcript recorder. I don't know how to do it offhand, but I know there is a way that you can do it. And it's good that you asked that question, because that's what I was mentioning Claude right now. What this is really powerful, like, and I haven't used it yet. They kind of just launched it today. No, that's not introducing. Just sorry, let me go through here. Don't know where I saw it. Give me 2 seconds. I think it was on my Twitter. Hopefully I can find it here.
Yeah, the human struggle of not being able to find your millions of tabs. I hope you can all relate.
So basically, yeah, so there is memory. This is not immer memory. Let's see if they announced it on there. But you basically can share your screen and bring up really cool stuff. Yeah, so core desktop here. So this is a very cool video. Basically answers the question. So now it can see your screen. You can take a screenshot of it and then ask a question directly in it. You don't even have to go to ChatGPT, into the actual application, and it'll start answering it for you. And I haven't tried this. I haven't tried this yet because it was released. Today the 21st, or wherever the 21st was. And you can also, like, you notice that I was also speaking into ChatGPT because I didn't want to type. This also allows you to do that as well. So this is really powerful. And that's why I kind of like Claude. I'm kind of preference of it, but GPT-5 is also a really good model.
Awesome. Well, Ty, we have a few more minutes left, and this webinar does allow for spillover into the next hour, but we won't. But since we've gotten a few questions around AI agents and whatnot, I think this might be a good wrap up for us. Maybe you can just go through a quick Nexus demo and actually connect it to a toolkit, connect it to maybe something in our G Suite, and maybe query it and really show our audience how this could work.
So what's really cool is, come on. I didn't create those Notion pages. I actually used Nexus to create it. So I used one of the chats here. You can see page creation to create those prompts and store them in there. So if I go to new chat here and I can say, can you retrieve my Notion pages and tell us about the homework for the audience? Now, without me having to go copy and paste the page, I can go and pull that information. I have to authorize first. So I have to give access to Nexus to say that what it's got access to. You can see that it's got that page there. And this is also a really good example of an agent, because it's trying to figure out now. It's not going to come back and ask me what page should I do, or what page to fetch, or what to do this. It's going to look and see. So it's coming back with the data from this first tool response. I'm not going to get into that in too much detail. Then it's going to call another tool to get more information, and it's going to figure it out on its own until it's confident enough to give me the answer. And that's basically an agent. That is, it's not giving you it's not a request and response. It's doing stuff on its behind the scenes in order to provide you with the best answer. So now it's going to fetch the information, and then it should come back with that data. Oh, it asked me to authorize again. It's going to fetch that data, and then I can use that data in order to update the page even. So like once it comes back here, we're gonna ask it to update. Okay, so this is, you see, so it fetch that data without me having to go to Notion. What should we update it to? Of our day, the goal, use another generic competitor, it's something that matters to you. Anyway, I won't go and get it to update something, but I could technically say to it like, okay, I didn't like this part, I don't like that part. Do you mind going and updating it and then storing it here? It's a nice way to store your prompts, but store your data if you're using it across different LLMs. So Nexus is compatible with Claude, and unfortunately not ChatGPT at this moment. We are looking to support that in the future, but if you use something else in a different client, you can then keep that data across different chats and then store it and retrieve it. So I like to store my prompts in Notion and then retrieve them as context into the LLM to use them.
Awesome. Yeah, and as marketing, I mean, obviously, I use our own product all the time, Civic Nexus. I connect it to Redshift, which is a data warehouse, and I use it to query. I just use Nexus to query Redshift to understand usage of any of our products, for example. So it's a really easy way for me to get data insights about, usage or drop off or retention without having to really rely on anybody else to get that data for me. So I think we're going to wrap it up here, Ty. We didn't even get to do our wildcard idea, which was to source ideas from the audience and to work through it in real time. But we had so many amazing questions, and that's great. We didn't get to answer everything, but we're going to try to answer the rest of it over email as well. So obviously, the prompts that we shared this webinar, we're going to upload on YouTube as well. So if you give us a day or two to just send you that recap email, we'll pull it all together, and you'll be hearing from us soon. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Nancy. Bye-bye.